You stand here with me, listening not merely to words, but to echoes that rise from the deepest layers of the psyche. What does it mean to stay true, to remain unshaken when the world, with all its endless masks and shifting winds, tries to mold you into something foreign? I invite you to feel the presence of that quiet inner voice. The voice that whispers beneath the chaos of expectations, demands, and judgments. This is not the voice of your fleeting persona, the one that bends like a reed to every gust of social opinion, but the voice of yourself, the eternal pattern that threads through all your experiences, the archetypal core of your being. To remain true is to remain in dialogue with that self, even when every external force conspires to silence it. Imagine for a moment that life is like a dream, and in this dream you find yourself wandering through a crowded marketplace. Each store calls out to you, offering masks, the mask of acceptance, of success, of virtue, of rebellion. These masks are not inherently false. They are aspects of the persona, the necessary faces we show to navigate the collective world. But what happens when you forget that the mask is only a mask? What happens when you start believing that this painted face is your only reality? And in the process, the voice of your inner truth grows dim, buried beneath layers of pleasing and conforming. That is when the soul begins to ache, when the shadow begins to stir, and when the unconscious will send dreams, often cryptic, often unsettling, to remind you that you have betrayed your own essence. Staying true to yourself is not an act of stubborn resistance against the world, but an ongoing alchemical work, a sacred dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious. It is a process of listening to your dreams, to your body, to the symbols that rise spontaneously from the depths of the psyche. There are times when this listening feels like entering a dark forest. You cannot see where the path leads. The trees close in. The sounds of the outer world fade. Yet within this forest lies the treasure, the goal of the inner journey, waiting for you to claim it. And this treasure cannot be handed to you by any authority, by any system, by any person who claims to know who you should be. It is yours to uncover through the patient work of individuation. Let me tell you something about this path. It is not the path of comfort. The moment you decide to stay true to yourself, the world will test you. People will project their shadows onto you, accusing you of being selfish, stubborn, difficult, or even lost. But remember, and the moment you begin to peel away the false layers, you will inevitably trigger discomfort in those who have not yet faced their own illusions. Their attempt to change you is often an unconscious plea for you to conform to their familiar patterns, because your authenticity exposes the artificiality of their own masks. Do not despise them for this. Understand it, see it as part of the eternal drama of the human condition. Consider the dream of a young woman I once worked with. In her dream, she stood in a vast, white room filled with mirrors. Each mirror reflected not her true face, but a different version of herself, a version shaped by the expectations of her family, her culture, her lover, her fears. She told me that in the dream, she felt suffocated, unable to find which reflection was real. But then, in the farthest corner of the room, she saw a small wooden door. When she walked through it, she found herself standing on the shore of a wild ocean, the sky filled with storm clouds and lightning. But the air tasted of freedom. This dream, I told her, was a map to find herself. She would have to step through the door of discomfort into the raw, unpredictable forces of life. Only there could she feel the salt of her own existence. Untainted by the demands of false mirrors, this is what I ask of you now. Are you willing to step through that door? Are you willing to leave behind the comfort of reflected images, to endure the storm that comes when you choose to live by the truth of your own being? It is not an easy thing. The collective psyche, the great web of culture and tradition, exerts a powerful pull. It does not want you to break free. It prefers that you remain in the dream of sameness, that you wear the mask well and never question the role you have been given. But the soul is restless. It will not be pacified by pretense. It calls you again and again, sometimes in the form of longing, sometimes in the form of suffering, sometimes through the symbols of a dream that wakes you in the middle of the night. To stay true, you must learn the language of these symbols. This is the language of the unconscious, a language older than any spoken word. It is the language of archetypes, of myth, of sacred images. When you dream of a wild animal chasing you, what is it that you are fleeing? When you dream of descending into a dark cave, what treasure is waiting for you in that darkness? These images are not random. They are messages, fragments of the self trying to reach you. The world may try to change you, but if you become fluent in the symbolic language of your soul, you will always have an anchor. You will know that no external force can rewrite the script that your deeper being has already inscribed within you. I tell you this, there is a kind of freedom that comes when you recognize that the world's attempts to change you are not personal. They are projections, collective patterns playing themselves out. When someone insists that you be different, that you conform, that you bend to their image of you, they are often speaking from their own fear, their own disowned shadow. To stay true is not to fight them or reject them, but to stand firm in your own light, knowing that you are guided by something larger than any individual opinion. The self is not a fragile thing. It is a cosmic pattern, an eternal truth unfolding through your existence. There is a story of a man who came to me in deep despair. He was a successful businessman, admired and respected, yet he felt empty, as though his life were a carefully staged performance. I don't know who I am anymore. He said to me, I have become everything they wanted me to be, and now I feel like a ghost. I asked him to tell me his dreams. In one of them, he saw himself standing in a grand theater, wearing a mask of gold. The audience applauded, but behind the mask, he was crying. When he took off the mask, he saw that his own face was pale and almost featureless. This dream revealed to him the cost of living solely for the external world. His task was not to destroy the mask, for we all need a persona, but to remember that the mask is not the self. His journey was to bring life back to the pale face, to fill it with the authenticity that only comes when we dare to follow our own inner path. I urge you to look within yourself now. What masks have you been wearing? What roles have you played so long that you've forgotten the one who watches behind them? There is nothing wrong with these roles. They are part of the dance of life. But if you forget that they are roles, you risk losing your connection to the deeper reality of your soul. Staying true means holding the tension between the mask and the self. It means being fully present in the world while never letting go of the invisible thread that connects you to the eternal. The world will always try to change you, but the greater danger lies not in their attempts, but in your own willingness to abandon your inner compass. This compass is subtle. It speaks through intuition, through sudden flashes of knowing, through the quiet sense that something feels right or wrong. When you betray this compass, life becomes fragmented, disjointed. But when you align with it, even the storms of life cannot uproot you. You may bend, you may sway, but you will not break. There is another dream I recall, one that speaks to this struggle. A man dreamed that he was walking through a desert, carrying a heavy bag filled with stones. Each stone had a name carved into it: Father's approval, society's praise, success, control, fear of failure. He walked and walked until his strength gave out. Then he saw in the distance a small oasis. He dropped the bag and began to crawl toward the water. When he looked back, he saw that the bag was gone, and in its place, a single feather lay on the ground. He picked it up and felt light, free, as if the weight of years had lifted. This dream shows what happens when we release the burden of external expectations. We do not lose ourselves. We find the self that was hidden all along. The moment you choose to walk this path of authenticity, something shifts within you. You begin to notice how much of your life was lived in automatic patterns, inherited scripts that were never truly yours. You see how the collective mind, like an unseen puppeteer, tries to dictate the rhythm of your every move. Yet the soul, your eternal self, is not here to be a puppet. It is here to become whole, to integrate the many scattered pieces of your psyche, and to stand as a bridge between the conscious world and the vast mystery of the unconscious. This is what I call individuation, and it is both a privilege and a burden, for it requires you to face not only the light, but also the darkness that dwells within. You cannot stay true to yourself if you are unwilling to face your shadow. The shadow is everything you have rejected, denied or buried, because it did not fit the image you wanted to present to the world. But understand this, the shadow is not evil. It is simply unrecognized. It holds the energy of your unlived life, the raw potential that has been exiled because it made others uncomfortable or threatened your sense of safety. When you refuse to meet your shadow, you are vulnerable to being shaped by the projections of others. But when you embrace it, when you invite it into consciousness, you become whole. You are no longer at the mercy of external attempts to change you, for you have reconciled the inner war. There is a profound courage required to do this work. Imagine a dream in which you are descending into a dark cavern, carrying only a small torch. The air is thick, the silence heavy, and every step takes you deeper into the unknown. At first, you may feel terror, for the cave is filled with strange whispers, shadows flickering against the stone walls. But as you go deeper, you find something unexpected, a figure waiting for you. This figure may appear frightening at first, perhaps wearing the face of a monster, but as you approach it, you realize it is your own face, the part of you that has been waiting to be acknowledged. This dream is a symbol of shadow integration. To stay true, you must descend into your own depths and face the parts of yourself that you once thought were unworthy or dangerous. The world will always try to distract you from this descent. It will tell you to stay busy, to keep wearing your masks, to find comfort in the roles assigned to you. It will tell you that success and approval are more important than authenticity. But if you listen carefully, you will hear another call, a quiet, insistent voice that urges you to look within, to ask the question, who am I beneath all of this? This question is not answered in a single moment. It is answered through years of inner dialogue, through dreams, through symbols, through moments of painful clarity. And each time you find an answer, life will test you, challenging you to live by that truth. When someone tries to change you, to shape you according to their image, see it as an opportunity to stand more firmly in your own being. Do not resist them with anger or fear. Instead, recognize that their attempt to change you is often a reflection of their own inner struggle. They see in you something they have not yet faced within themselves. By remaining true, you do not only free yourself, you also offer them a mirror, a chance to awaken. This is not about defiance, but about quiet strength, the kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are and why you are here. Let me tell you a story of another dream. This one from a man who felt crushed by the expectations of his family. In his dream, he was standing in a courtroom, accused of betraying his lineage. The judge, the jury, even the audience were all faces of his relatives, glaring at him, demanding that he conform. He felt trapped, suffocated by the weight of their judgment. But then he noticed a small door at the back of the courtroom. He walked toward it, and though they shouted at him to stop, he stepped through and found himself in a vast forest filled with golden light. When he woke, he realized that the door symbolized his own inner freedom, the decision to follow his own path even if others disapproved. His dream was telling him that the trial was not real. It was a projection of his fear. The forest, on the other hand, was his self calling him to live authentically. Staying true to yourself does not mean rejecting the world or isolating yourself. On the contrary, it means engaging with the world in a more conscious way. It means recognizing that while the collective has its place and its wisdom, it cannot dictate the entirety of your being. There is a rhythm, a song within you that no one else can hear in quite the same way. To live true is to dance to that song, even when the world's music tries to drown it out. Sometimes this will make you feel lonely. For few people have the courage to live this way. But know this loneliness is often the first sign that you are truly walking your own path. It is a sacred solitude, one that allows you to listen more deeply to the whispers of your own soul. In my years of studying the psyche, I have seen countless examples of people who lost themselves because they feared this solitude. They filled their lives with noise, endless activities, relationships, achievements, trying to silence the discomfort of being alone with their own thoughts. But you cannot stay true to yourself if you are always running away from the silence. It is in the silence that the self speaks. It is in the silence that you remember who you are. I ask you now, when was the last time you sat in silence, not seeking to achieve or impress, but simply to listen? When was the last time you asked yourself what you truly desire, not what others have told you to desire? These questions may seem simple, but they cut through the layers of conditioning like a blade. And once you begin to ask them, you cannot unsee the truth they reveal. There is a dream I recall from a woman who felt constantly manipulated by those around her. She dreamed of standing in a room filled with strings, each one tied to her body, pulling hair in different directions. The strings were held by faceless figures who whispered demands she could not fully understand. She felt exhausted, as if every movement drained her life force. But then she looked closer and saw that some of the strings were tied loosely. And with a single gesture, she could untie them. As she began to free herself, the faceless figures faded, and she felt a surge of energy as though life had returned to her veins. This dream is a metaphor for what happens when we reclaim our autonomy. The world may try to pull you in 1,000 directions, but many of those strings exist only because you have allowed them to remain tied. To stay true is to begin untying those strings one by one. It is to ask, which of these demands truly belong to me, and which are illusions, which are born from love, and which from fear. This process can be painful because it often means disappointing others. But remember this, you are not here to live someone else's dream. You are here to live your own. As you walk this path, you will encounter archetypes, those eternal patterns of the psyche that shape both the individual and collective experience. The hero, the child, the mother, the trickster, the sage, each of these lives within you, waiting to be acknowledged. Sometimes, when you are struggling to stay true, it is because an archetype within you is calling for recognition. Perhaps the warrior within you is tired of surrendering, or the lover within you longs for authentic connection, or the hermit calls you to step away and seek solitude. By understanding these archetypes, you gain insight into the deeper currents shaping your life. You begin to see that staying true is not a static act, but a dance between these inner forces. I remind you again, the world's attempts to change you are not the real enemy. The real danger lies in forgetting that you are more than the roles you play, more than the projections of others. You are a living, breathing expression of the self, a force that is both unique and universal. When you stay true to this self, You become a source of light in the world, a reminder to others that authenticity is possible. There is a quiet revolution that occurs within you when you realize that you do not need permission to be who you truly are. For so long, you may have believed that authenticity required the blessing of those around you, that to stand in your own truth meant gaining the approval of parents, partners, mentors, or society. But the deeper you journey into your own psyche, the clearer it becomes that this revolution is entirely internal. No one can grant you the right to be yourself, because you have carried that right within you since the beginning of time. The self, the eternal center of your being, has always been waiting for you to awaken to its presence, to recognize that its authority surpasses all external voices. Imagine a dream where you are walking through an ancient temple. The walls are covered with carvings depicting stories of gods and mortals, of creation and destruction, of light and shadow. At the center of this temple, you find a mirror, but when you look into it, you do not see your current reflection. You see all the faces you have worn throughout your life, the child who longed for acceptance, the adolescent who feared rejection, the adult who wore masks to survive. Then, slowly, those faces fade, and you are left with a face you do not recognize. Yet, it feels more like you than anything else. This is the face of yourself, the eternal image that lies beyond all roles. To stay true, you must bow to this image, honor it, and live according to its truth. But this path is not without resistance. The collective world, with its rigid structures and expectations, does not welcome the individual who dares to be authentic. It fears those who will not bend, who will not conform to the prescribed narratives of success, love, or morality. You may feel their judgment like a cold wind, and it will tempt you to retreat, to put the mask back on. Yet every time you choose the mask over your true face, a part of your soul withdraws into silence. It will not scream, but it will ache, and over time, that ache will manifest as a deep dissatisfaction with life, a sense that you are merely existing rather than truly living. This is why dreams are so important. They reveal to you the truth you often hide from yourself. When the outer world tries to shape you, your dreams remind you of who you are beneath the noise. A woman once came to me with a recurring dream. She was standing on a stage, performing for a faceless audience. No matter how well she performed, no one applauded. She felt invisible, her efforts meaningless. But one night, the dream shifted. Instead of performing, she walked off the stage and went into the dark backstage area. There, she found a small, glowing lantern. The light was warm, alive, and it illuminated her own hands, her own face. I told her that this lantern was her authenticity, her inner fire. As long as she sought applause from the faceless crowd, she would remain lost. But if she held onto the lantern, even in solitude, she would never be without purpose. You, too, have a lantern within you. It is not something that others can give or take away. It is your light, your truth, your connection to the archetypal patterns that shape your soul's journey. To stay true is to protect this light, to let it guide you, even when the world tries to extinguish it. And sometimes staying true means walking alone for a while, not because you're isolated, but because the path of authenticity is narrow and few dare to walk it. Yet, as you walk, you will find that the loneliness gives way to a profound sense of communion with something greater than yourself, a communion with the unconscious, with the timeless truths that connect all of humanity. The process of individuation is like a spiral. You will revisit the same themes, the same inner conflicts, again and again. But each time at a deeper level, it is not about reaching some final state of perfection, but about becoming increasingly aligned with your true nature. Every time the world tries to change you, it offers you a chance to return to the spiral, to dive deeper into your own being. These challenges are not meant to destroy you, but to strip away what is false, so that what is real can emerge. Let us speak now of the shadow in another way. Often, when people try to change you, it is because your shadow has touched theirs. Something in you reminds them of what they have repressed, and their instinct is to push you to change rather than face their own discomfort. This is why staying true to yourself is not merely a personal act, but also a collective one. When you live authentically, you hold up a mirror to the world, and not everyone is ready to see what is reflected. Do not take their discomfort as a sign that you are wrong. Instead, see it as proof that you are shining a light into places that are often left in darkness. There is a man I remember who dreamed of being chased by a pack of wolves. Each night they came closer, and each night he ran harder, terrified. When he finally stopped running and turned to face them, he discovered that the wolves transformed into loyal companions, their eyes glowing with a wild but gentle light. This dream revealed that the forces we fear are often the very forces we need to embrace. In his waking life, he realized that he had been running from his own power, from the wildness of his instincts, because he feared they would make him unacceptable to others. But when he embraced that wildness, he found not chaos, but strength. To stay true, you must stop running from your inner wolves. They are not there to devour you, they are there to guide you. As you continue on this path, there will be moments when you feel torn between who you are and who the world wants you to be. This tension is not a sign of failure, it is the very crucible in which authenticity is forged. The alchemists of old spoke of turning lead into gold, but this was always a metaphor for inner transformation. The lead is the heavy, dense mass of unexamined habits, fears, and false identities. The gold is the self, radiant, whole, indestructible. To create this gold, you must endure the heat of transformation, the friction of opposing forces. Each time you resist being molded into something you are not, each time you honor your own truth over the comfort of conformity, you are performing alchemy. And what is the result of this work? It is not fame or applause or even understanding from those around you. The true reward is a sense of inner coherence, a feeling that your life is aligned with something larger, something timeless. You become less concerned with how others perceive you, because you know deep in your bones that you are living according to your own truth. This does not mean you become indifferent to others, but rather that your compassion deepens because you no longer seek validation from them. You see them as fellow travelers, each wrestling with their own masks, their own shadows, and in seeing them clearly, you can love them without losing yourself. There is a final image I want to share with you. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean at dawn. The sky is painted with colors you cannot describe, and the waves are both calm and powerful. You feel the immensity of life, the mystery of existence, and you realize that you are part of something far greater than the roles you play or the expectations you meet. In that moment, you understand that staying true is not about clinging to a rigid identity, but about flowing with the deeper currents of your own being. It is about trusting that the self, like the ocean, is vast enough to hold all the storms, all the changes, all the challenges you will ever face. There comes a moment when you begin to see that all the attempts to change you from parents, partners, teachers, even society itself, are not so much personal attacks as they are reflections of a collective fear of the unknown. The true self, the self that rises from the depths of the unconscious, is always something unknown, something wild and untamed. It is not concerned with fitting neatly into the structures of the external world. It is like the forest, like the ocean, like the fire that both destroys and renews. And so, when you stay true to this self, you inevitably unsettle the patterns that others have built around you. Yet, this unsettling is necessary, for authenticity does not exist in the realm of comfort. It exists in the tension between the known and the unknown, between what is expected and what is deeply true. I once spoke with a man who dreamed of standing at the top of a mountain, holding a map that suddenly crumbled to dust in his hands, Hepanitsad, believing he had lost his way. But then, as he looked around, he saw that the path forward was etched into the mountain itself. He didn't need a map, because the way was already inscribed in the very ground he stood on. This dream, I told him, was a reminder that the true path of the self cannot be mapped by anyone else. No external guide, no social script, no collective approval can show you how to stay true. The path is carved by each step you take when you dare to listen to your own soul. To live in this way is to embrace a kind of sacred uncertainty. The persona, the social mask, thrives on certainty, on knowing what is expected and how to perform it. But the self is not concerned with performance, it is concerned with wholeness. And wholeness often requires us to walk into the unknown, to let go of the comforting illusions of control. This can be terrifying. It can feel like stepping off a cliff into empty space. But if you trust the deeper currents of your psyche, you will discover that there is something beneath you, something that holds you even when all familiar ground has vanished. This is the mystery of the unconscious. It is both dark and luminous, both chaotic and ordered, When you surrender to it, you do not lose yourself. You find the self that was always there, waiting. In one of my own dreams, long ago, I saw a vast tree growing in the center of a desert. Its roots reached deep into the earth, and its branches touched the stars. I understood then that this tree was a symbol of the self, rooted in the depths of the unconscious, yet reaching toward the eternal. It was not swayed by the storms that passed through the desert, nor did it seek approval from the barren landscape around it. It simply grew, silently and steadily, true to its own nature. This image has stayed with me, a reminder that authenticity is not something we achieve through effort, but something we allow to emerge when we stop betraying our inner truth. You may be wondering how to find this truth in a world that constantly bombards you with noise and distraction. The answer lies in listening deeply and consistently to the symbols of your own life. Every dream, every intuitive nudge, every feeling of unease or longing is a message from the self. These messages are not always comfortable. They may challenge you to leave situations that no longer serve your growth, to speak truths that others do not want to hear, to walk away from patterns that once gave you a false sense of safety. But this discomfort is the very sign that you are awakening, that you are stepping out of the roles imposed upon you and into the fullness of your being. Do not underestimate the power of small, quiet acts of authenticity. It is not always about grand gestures or dramatic transformations. Sometimes staying true means simply saying no when your heart says no. Even if the world expects a yes, sometimes it means allowing yourself to rest when everyone else is rushing, to create when no one understands what you are making, to feel deeply even when others tell you to harden your heart. These small acts, repeated over time, weave a tapestry of truth that no one can unravel. The journey of individuation is not linear. There will be times when you feel strong and clear, and times when you feel lost, unsure, pulled in every direction. But even in the moments of confusion, trust that something within you knows the way. The self does not abandon you. It may withdraw to allow you to explore, to fail, to learn, but it is always there, like a quiet flame in the darkness. When you return to it, you will find that it has not diminished, but grown brighter, fed by the very struggles you thought would extinguish it. Another dream comes to mind, this one from a young artist who felt pressured by family and society to abandon her passion for something practical. She dreamed of a small bird trapped inside a glass box, beating its wings in desperation. She wanted to free the bird, but feared that opening the box would cause chaos. Finally, she opened it, and the bird flew out, transforming into a phoenix as it soared into the sky. When she woke, she knew that her creative fire could not be caged, and that staying true to herself meant letting that fire burn, even if it defied the expectations of those she loved. This is the paradox of authenticity. When you set your own soul free, you often inspire others to find their own wings, though they may resist at first. And so I say to you, do not fear the world's attempts to change you. Do not fear their opinions, their judgments, their misunderstandings. The only true danger lies in abandoning yourself. When you are rooted in yourself, you are like that tree in the desert, unshaken by storms, connected to both earth and sky. The world may swirl around you, but it cannot uproot you, for your roots go too deep, your branches reach too high. You are connected to something that is beyond all human grasp, the eternal pattern of life itself. You will know you are living true when your life begins to feel like a dialogue rather than a performance. Instead of reacting to every demand, you will begin to respond from a place of inner clarity. Instead of striving to please, you will begin to create, to love, to serve from a place of fullness. This is not an easy path, but it is the only one that leads to true freedom. And freedom is not the absence of challenge. It is the courage to face every challenge without losing yourself. If you remember only one thing from our time together, let it be this: the self is not something you must invent. It is not a mask you put on, nor a role you play. It is the eternal truth of who you are, the quiet voice that has been whispering to you since you first drew breath. Stay true to that voice. And no matter how they try to change you, you will remain unshaken. You will be like the ocean ever changing on the surface, yet boundless and eternal in your depths. This is where I leave you now, not with answers, but with questions that only you can explore. Who are you when all the masks are gone? What dreams is your soul sending you, urging you to remember? What part of your shadow is waiting to be embraced? Not as an enemy, but as a lost friend. Do not rush to answer these questions. Sit with them, dream with them, let them guide you back to yourself, again and again, until you no longer fear the world's attempts to shape you, because you have become the shape of your own truth.